Hello everyone, my name is Sang-hee Kim and I'm a research assistant for Dr. Chang. This is our last lecture and we are going to talk about diversity and virtual technology this time. So today I'd like to talk how virtual technology can support diversity and the fashion industry. So the purpose of this lecture is to develop your spatial visualization assessment skill and improve the comprehensive understanding of diversity in the future fashion. So that is, through this lecture, first, you will understand the issues of diversity and fashion connected to virtuality by reading the article, and you will discuss what diversity issues in the future fashion should be addressed by using virtual technology. And then you will experience virtual reality technology and person to think diversity issues. So moving on, before watching video, let me introduce it briefly. Sudo is a virtual model having dark brown skin and inspired me to think what standards of beauty in the virtual world, especially in the fashion industry. So let's watch this video.
Shudu is a digital supermodel. She is a very, very glamorous and amazing woman, but she is 3D. I'm Cameron James Wilson. I'm a visual artist and creator of the world's first digital supermodel, Shudogram. For a long time, fashion hasn't really adopted change, especially with 3D. It's kind of seen as something radical, whereas in most industries it's very standard. Pretty much if you flip through an IKEA catalog, for example, 80% of the images you'll see are created in 3D. Putting together accurate representations of clothing, I use a program called Clo3D. That allows me to simulate kind of fabric draping and cloth simulation. So what I do is I put Shudu in one pose, and then I have her go into the next pose. And what will happen is she will hit the fabric and it will drape. And that's the power of Clo3D, that it really knows the fabric.
Hi, I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're 3D designers at Clo Virtual Fashion.
The very first step is we'll have to measure the actual pattern and recreate the pattern exactly to get this exact look. So the hem finish is important, finishings inside.
This one's really interesting because of the elastic, and that's going to take into account the shearing ratio here. And then also the texture of this fabric. It's a crinkle and has a little sheerness to it. This one was interesting with the shearing ratio from the sleeve to the cuff, and then also the button closure finish. We wanted to take into account the hardware on this.
So we get some yardage of the actual fabric, and we cut strips for the warp, the weft, and the bias, and we basically test how that bends and how that stretches. So first you would test the bend of each direction of the fabric, and once you record those measurements, then you can move on to testing the stretch. So you take a strip and you're testing what the resistance of the stretch is, and then the point at which it stops stretching. So you will know, does this garment fit or does this garment not fit? Then we have the thickness of the fabric. So we have a digital thickness gauge. So that gives you the weight of your fabric. Record that. And then here you go and start entering the information. So I'll type in my weight, my thickness. So this is the pattern window. So here I have all of my patterns laid out. So if I open up my 3D window, this is the garment in its digital state.
So we have our belts through our D-rings, and then we are also able to show the texture from our fabrics testing.
No one ever has to sew a sample, which is really nice. A lot of that hard labor is kind of what we want to eliminate and kind of create a more sustainable process for both designers and development in the entire industry.
Putting together a virtual shoot is pretty similar to a real life one, except everything's kind of in your control. You know, if I want to choose an environment which is a desert or a kind of beach or whatever, I can do that. If you imagine when you play a game that you kind of can go around an environment, you can do the same with the program that I use with Shudu. You know, it's an environment that you can traverse and look around and capture photographs. It's really similar in the way that you do in real life. It's like a virtual experience. In some ways, Shudu has taught me more about natural beauty and kind of the meanings of that, because I've had to make her so realistic. And in order to make her so realistic, I have to add all those natural imperfections that I was taught to take away with photography. Photoshop is all about taking away the realism, whereas 3D is all about adding it. I mean, with digital models, it brings about whole new concepts of time and beauty in a world where we can chop and change our looks. You know, what will decide beauty? You know, we could be 8 foot tall and we don't need organs anymore, so our bodies can be completely different, you know. So in a virtual world, I'm excited to see what standards of beauty, you know, and where they get pushed to, you know. I think that's what excites me, you know, kind of from one extreme to the other. You know, how far into fantasy can we get with the human form before it becomes something completely different?
So continuously, let's read an article. The title of this article is "Detailed Models Pose New Diversity Questions to the Fashion Industry." It will be a chance to think how digital technologies can support diversity and the fashion industry. Once you scan this QR code using your smartphone's camera, you can have an access to the article. So I will give you 2 minutes for reading this article. Then let's move on the discussion session. Since we are having an online course, just please think about answers to these three questions. So, first question is, what are important diversity issues in the fashion industry? Um, I will give you 1 minute to answer this question. Then moving on the second question, um, just can you please think about how virtual models can overcome or worsen the issues of diversity in the fashion industry? I will give you 1 minute to answer this question as well. So let's move on the third question. Um, Apart from a race issue, um, what diversity issues in the future fashion should be addressed using virtual technologies? Um, can you please think about answer to this last question? I will give you 1 minute. Um, Before going to the next slide, just I'd like to tell you, please leave answers to any of these three questions on our YouTube channel. You can find our YouTube channel when searching RETL Lab TTU on YouTube. So I'm gonna show you the details at the end of this lecture. So lastly, this is the last part. Our lab has virtual reality devices. So if you want to try, please sign up to visit our lab. And we will show you virtual content named Traveling While Black, and it will be a great chance to experience African American people's daily life in the past. So feel free to contact my email if you are interested in having the virtual experience. But before wrapping up the lecture, as I've shown in this lecture today, you might comprehensively think how virtual technology can advocate diversity in the fashion industry. So this is end of our third lecture, and thank you for listening. Just before ending this lecture, can you please leave your answer to questions as a comment in our YouTube channel. You can find our channel when searching RETL Lab TTU or enter this link as you can see this slide. And we look forward to hearing your opinions about answers to discussion questions on part 3 video. And thank you.